All right. Hey there, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me. There's a pretty significant lag from when I say things to when you can actually hear them. But I see there's at least a few people here, so it's good to see you all. Whoever you might be, I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you're here. And hopefully y'all can hear me. Can you hear me all right? Anybody that's there? Hey, Pedro. How's it going, man? Happy New Year. Awesome. Good. All right, well, before, you guys start asking me a whole bunch of questions, I wanted to, tell you all who actually, I'm very behind on giving out the certs that you all deserve. So there are 4 people that won certs this month, 2 that shared the content on different social media channels, and then 2 are just random subscribers. And so I have no idea if I'll pronounce your name right, and I apologize if I ruin it. But there's Tao Duong, Tincho Aguilera, who shared this stuff on social media, and then the 2 random subscribers are Ian McCormick and Manuel Madrigal. And a couple things. Going forward, there will only be 2 people that win each month, but it comes with additional things. So to win a certification, you've got to now be a subscriber and share something that you actually liked on this channel on social media somewhere. But you get not only a free cert, but an hour's worth of my time whenever it works for you, for me to help you with code or consulting or whatever else, and a free month in the Discord server where you can ask me anything for a whole month. So those things have changed, but otherwise, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully it'll get you a cool cert. Anyway, that's all I really got. So if you guys want to ask me questions, if you have any, feel free to ask me questions. I'll keep answering them for at least an hour, or until enough of you disappear. One of the two. If you don't have any questions, I can just talk endlessly. I don't know that you'd want to listen to it, but yeah. How long have I been in Salesforce? That's a good question. It's been very close to 7 years now, I think. I started in, maybe, I guess it's been close to 7 years now. So I started in June 2015 at Accenture Federal Services. Yeah, there's a very big lag for sure. And yeah, since then I've had a bunch of different jobs. I've worked at I think for 25 clients now on 50 different projects. So it's been a long time. I've worked for 6 different employers now, I think. I'm currently back at Accenture Federal Services because I love it there. But anyway, it's a good question. Yeah, I am seeing the chat. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My question is about working with a lot of different inbound API requests and the best design patterns to future-proof our managed package. That is tricky without a lot of context. I can't say I am by any means a well-rounded managed package person. I have created a couple of managed packages, but I haven't done an enormous amount with them. As far as handling inbound requests, it's a good question. It depends on how many inbound requests you're getting and from how many places. If you're getting it from like hundreds of different places, and you know where they're coming from, or maybe you don't even have to know where they're coming from. Maybe consider using something like MuleSoft so you can abstract whatever integration that you're going to do, MuleSoft or something like it. And there are better things. Probably shouldn't say that than MuleSoft, but there are options out there as far as what to do with them. I would say always make sure to log them, whatever inbound requests you have, to make sure you don't lose them if something goes wrong. But I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with that question, I would say, without more information. Let me see, maybe followed up. Say I'm working for Tesla as their primary developer, and each car has 10 sensors that can communicate to the SF org now. I have 10,000 cars that report and at random times, but at least once per hour. So 100 API requests every hour. Through APIs, what are some ways you would tackle this issue? That's a big question. And a good one. One that I'd want to probably think more about. As far as how to actually handle that scenario, 100,000 inbound requests per day or every hour. If you're handling it all in Salesforce, you're going to have to, you'd want to set up some kind of REST resource probably in Salesforce if you're doing some custom setup, so that you can kind of manage the business side of things a little better. But that's a big one. You could go a bunch of different ways, and it all just depends on what kind of technology you want to work with, MuleSoft or whatever else. Not an easy one to solve, and without sitting down with people and thinking about it quite a bit. Have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome earlier in your career? Sure. I deal with imposter syndrome all the time. I don't think anybody's too has gotten so far in their career that they honestly, if you believe that you know everything, then there's something wrong. Everywhere I go, all the things I do, I do have to make decisions and be pretty firm on them, but I never know. I don't think anybody does with absolute certainty that they're the best decisions. And early in my career, sure. The earlier it is, the harder the more difficult it is to get by the fact that there's so little that Even still today, there's still so much more I could learn, right? That I could know, that I'd love to be better at. Like I would love to have just immediately had a perfect answer for the API request, but I don't. And even with the videos that I make, I sometimes think like, do I even know enough about what I'm talking about to get them done for you guys? And I'll sometimes sit there for hours thinking and rethinking the things that I've said to make sure that I'm giving you guys the best content that I can come up with anyway. But yeah, sure. I don't think it'll ever go away, but just don't let it get to you that much. Realize that nobody knows everything, so don't expect yourself to know everything either. You just have to make the best decision that you can make, and be okay with it, because I mean, like I tell pretty much everybody, you can't be perfect. It just won't ever happen. Let's see. Looks like you have a question about being a Star Wars fan, and if you're a big fan. Yeah, I am a pretty big Star Wars fan. That's why I have this shirt on and many other shirts around. I do love Star Wars. Probably too much sometimes, but yeah, it's a good time. My biggest question is regarding your new video strategy. Will we have to wait until you have all videos for beginner and intermediate before releasing them? So, no. There's been... I put up that poll to see what you guys would want the most, but there have been some... Despite the majority of people really wanting it to be one long video, there have been many more people who have asked me in private messages or through email or whatever else to not break the videos or put the videos into one long video. So I'm still going to break them up into smaller videos because there's enough want for it, and then I'm just going to edit them all together in the end to make one big video too. And as far as the new upload strategy, to attempt to kind of like make it so that the core videos, the more advanced videos, don't get drowned out by other stuff. All the beginner videos and the intermediate ones. Sorry, this cough I have. It just won't go away, man. I'm just going to upload a bunch of videos on one day. I haven't decided what that day will be. So there will be the normal day, Wednesday, where I upload the typical videos that you guys vote on and, you know, you're used to. And then I haven't decided whether it be like Friday or Saturday or Monday. I'll have to look at it a little bit more, but one of those days I'm just going to drop like 10 intermediate and beginner videos all on the same day for those series. And yeah, so answer your question, you'll still get the individual videos because enough of you really wanted to have them individual, and you're very adamant about it. So I don't want to leave anybody out. Thank you for your advice. I love your channel. Thank you. I'm just very glad it helps anybody at all. I did not expect even 11 people to be here in this live, AMA today, and I certainly didn't expect over 3,600 of you in the course of not even a year and a half to find this channel and like it enough to stick around anyway. I'm never really sure that any of this stuff is as good as I hope it is, but I'm glad that it's been helping a lot. Went through all your separation of concern videos in the solid series. Do you always code to an interface, or do you consider certain things before doing so? Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Do you always code to an interface, or do you consider certain things before doing so? I definitely consider certain things before I do it. So as far as what those things are, if I truly believe that something is going to either be reused very frequently or will change incredibly often, very often, then I will go down the interface route and build out those kind of things that I go over in the solid series. That said, if I'm working in an org that's very small or has a very low budget to begin with, then sometimes those things aren't as important. And ultimately, my job is to get a client or whoever is wanting me to build things a result that they can use that will be beneficial to them with what they have to build it. Would I like to build it to an interface in pretty much every situation? A lot of the time, yeah, probably like 90% of the time, 80% of the time, I'd love to build it so that it's a lot more flexible and I can do whatever I want with it in the future, and I don't have to worry about the fact that I kind of built it for this moment in time and only this moment in time, but that doesn't always work out. And so, yeah, I mean, I take a lot of factors into consideration, but it's mostly how often is this going to be reused? How often is it going to change? And then what kind of budget does the client or if I'm working in-house, the business unit that I'm working for right now and building stuff for, what kind of time and budget do they actually have? Because I don't want to waste it on that right now if that's not what they're focused on. I am a developer, but I unfortunately have to, or fortunately, I don't know, have to work with what the business wants to. So, let's see. Solid Christmas sweater. Thank you. I wear them all year round, so yeah. I've got a couple others, so maybe you'll see them. I think I've worn them almost all of them in the videos now. So if you watch every video, you'll see the variety of Christmas sweaters I have. They're very comfortable, so I don't know. All right. Sorry I keep drinking water and my voice sounds horrible. I've got this wonderful cold, so it just happened like yesterday, and I was like, I'll just go do this anyway. All right, how can we pass the security and app exchange? I'll be the first to tell you, I'm definitely not an expert here. Like I said before, I'm not an expert on managed packages. I have built them, and I will say, getting past security review is kind of a pain. Chances are, you aren't gonna, if you've never done it before, you're not gonna get past it the first go around. But I mean, the things that you need to be aware of are they're gonna ask you, or they're not gonna ask you. They're gonna review your code for things like you're checking for object and field level permissions. They're gonna check it, if you're making it a connection to an API. Say your managed package is calling out to, Tesla's API for some reason, that API is actually secure and that your connection to it is also secure, because they don't, there's a lot that could go wrong with outbound APIs or outbound connections that could endanger an org. So, and then they're going to look for a handful of other things, like you're not breaking security stuff that you shouldn't, like you're not making a package that allows users to use communities in ways that Salesforce doesn't want you to, or it wasn't designed for, like, you can have one person log in for everybody or something. Those things are a little less likely to happen. One of my managed packages, which is this thing that converts a PDF to a Visualforce page, kind of. It basically just takes a PDF and turns it into images, and creates a Visualforce page from those images. It does something that allows a user to run as an admin. That would not pass security review. They would reject that at the if you're putting it on the App Exchange anyway. So there's a lot to it. I don't know that I know everything about it for sure, but it's tricky. It'll take you a handful of times. I'd suggest potentially reaching out to one of the bigger ISVs, like or at least somebody that works at one of those ISVs like Code Science or something, they'll know even more than me. But yeah, they do have a whole security guide review too. If you haven't seen, or a guide on security that I had to go through 4-5 years ago now. I can't remember, but it's a fun time. Let's see. What? Sweaters should become a thing for all videos. Maybe I do like them. Hopefully we can have everything live chat like this. Yeah, it'd be cool, man. I mean, I wouldn't mind having more live AMAs if you guys are interested. I don't know that I'll have enough time to do more than maybe like one a month, but if you guys want it enough, then I'm happy to answer your questions. Do you think you will start using Visual Studio Code on your videos, or do you find most developers prefer to see and use in the Intellij IDE? This is a good question. If you watch a bunch of my videos that I made in the beginning, I use Visual Studio Code for pretty much all of them. Like the first half of the video, first 35 videos that I made, maybe it wasn't even that many, I use Visual Studio Code. And I did that because I know most people will want to use it because it's free, and I'm creating this channel for free because I want everybody to have access to this information and for it to be easy for everybody out there to learn this stuff and get better at it and all that kind of stuff, because it's not, this stuff isn't, some of the stuff that I do talk about isn't well documented, but it's just difficult for me to work in Visual Studio Code, and it's not because I don't know how to use it, it's just because it's just not as good. So it takes me quite a bit longer, mostly because of the autocomplete problems that it has. Even with some of the better autocomplete plugins that Visual Studio Code has, it's just a pain. I might start, I may go back to it for the intro courses, but that said, there's not an enormous amount aside from the autocomplete that is different between Visual Studio Code and Illuminated Cloud, right? So that's why I don't see I personally don't see a huge benefit in switching from Illuminated Cloud to Visual Studio Code, because outside of creating an Apex class or potentially launching a Scratch org or something like that, there's just not a huge gap between what I'm showing you in Intellij and what you'll end up actually doing if you use Visual Studio Code. The code will be the same. The only thing that'll change is just how you create a new class or a new Lightning Web Component. But I don't know. You're not the only person that has asked me about the Visual Studio Code thing. I don't know. It's tough to work with. I just don't like it. Do you have any wisdom for moving to the DX model using second-gen packages? I've heard some say make packages small and composable, while others say don't make a ton of packages. All right, so the first thing I'll say here is, unfortunately, in a real-world scenario, I have yet to get a client to agree to move into second-generation packaging, right? I am currently attempting that, and we'll see how it goes. I have only done this theoretically in my own orgs, and I have, messed with stuff so that I know how to actually leverage it when I get an opportunity to leverage it, or if I ever get into a new org, which will probably never happen. But as far as the second-gen packages, from my experimentation with them, what I would say is it's very dependent whether you want to make smaller packages or you want to make a few big packages. What I would say is, if you're in like a regular org, right? You're in an org that has multiple applications, right? Oh, hey, Catherine. What's up, man? If you're in a org that has a ton of applications, and you are using second-gen packages, what I would do is just siphon your apps into packages. And one of the reasons that I have yet to get into second-gen packaging on the channel is because I wanted to go over the solid principles first, and separation of concerns, because I really think that one of the biggest problems that people face with second-gen packaging is that there's these dependencies between the packages, right? And that's where they really start to get into some real difficulties, like when they get into the micro packaging or they just start packaging in general. And the reason that that's a big problem is because if you have, say a contact trigger handler in package A and package B, and then you break it, well, there's these like dependency issues that start to happen between your packages, and you have all these problems. But if you use separation of concerns and those solid design principles like we went over, you get much less of that, because you end up not having those dependencies between your different applications. And you can truly package them and siphon them into their own individual, setups, and you don't get into as much of those dependency issues that, I see a lot of people complain about second-gen packaging or unlocked packaging, right? So I will eventually do unlocked packages on the channel, because it's something that I really want to go over, but I did want to get through some of those things because I want to be able to reference them in those videos, so that when I go over the fact that this is a problem that you will definitely run into, you got something to go reference, and I'm not just kind of leaving you out in the wind and saying, best of luck. I don't know. Let's see. Intellij with Illuminated Cloud 2 is a superior experience. VS Code, we just bought a license for a whole team. Yeah, it's true. Illuminated Cloud 2 is quite a bit better than VS Code in my personal opinion. There's plenty of people that probably disagree with me, but the other thing, is it does cost $90 a year, and sometimes that is a big factor. $90 a year is cheap for me maybe, but it's not for everybody. How big of the project will we use? So how big of a project basically kind of like warrants the use of the fflib library or the Apex Common library? That's a good question. So I think everybody can benefit from the Apex Common library in different ways. It is a very good library, despite the many negative and there's plenty of positive things. There's also plenty of negative things about the Apex Common library. But ultimately, I think it's a really an incredibly well done package. If you go and you sit and look through all the code, it's really great. I think every org to an extent could benefit from it, unless they're ultra small, and I mean like really small, like you got 10 to 50 users. Maybe it's not for them, unless they have like an extremely customized org, which normally you don't, because there's not a huge budget there for development or anything anyway. I'd say once you get in the range of like 500 plus users, you normally have an org that has a relatively big budget, and with a big budget comes a lot of requests for customization and a lot of requests for custom business rules and processes in your system. And at that point, you can really start benefiting not only as a developer but as a business from using something like the Apex Common Library. And that's just because, what it offers you is an incredibly abstract and well-built code base to basically, leverage or give you and the rest of your team the ability to use proven patterns and abstract your code a little bit easier and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I'd say around the 500 user mark is where you should really start to consider it. But especially when you get into an org that has multiple applications, with those applications using different objects for different reasons, that's where you really start to see the impact of something like fflib, because you can you can use the same objects in your org, but you can completely separate them in those apps through the use of something like fflib. Doesn't necessarily have to be that, but yeah. And something else I haven't gone over on this channel yet, but when you use something as big as fflib, you should consider the use of what's called the facade pattern as well, because you never know when you might want to change out fflib for something else, Apex Common for something else. I'll go over the facade pattern in a video eventually. I really hope. One of the things I plan to do this year is create a design patterns course for Apex that goes over things like the facade pattern and everything else. But basically, it gives you even more flexibility with stuff. So, all right. I see a lot of people moving to flows. Did my stream just die? You guys still there? Okay, I know it's back now. All right. That was fun. I see a lot of people moving to flows. Do you think that a Salesforce consultant, no CS background, should consider becoming strong in flows and later jump into Apex coding? This is a tricky question. I think that it is difficult to use flows in a meaningful way, in a good way, without having some background in computer science, right? Or not necessarily a background in computer science, because there's plenty of people I work with that have no background in computer science, but you have at least some understanding of how code works, right? Like just how those, like an FL statement, how does that work? How does a method work? How does, how does a class work? Basic things like that, I think, are necessary to be able to build flows in a way that are sustainable, right? You're gonna have nightmare experiences like I've experienced working at some of the places that I've worked, where somebody who has no idea about kind of like coding best practices, building flows, and what happens is these flows become absolutely enormous. And don't get me wrong, flows are great. And in many instances, I'll even suggest them, but to be able to have a flow that's maintainable is critical. It's just like, if you don't have code that's maintainable, you're going to have a nightmare situation on your hands too, right? It goes both ways. But if you don't understand, all right, this is how I should kind of consider building my flows out. At this point, I should maybe make a subflow, like I should maybe make another class if I was in Apex, and I should call that subflow to get this particular business process done or this particular thing done, then, it's tricky. But maybe that warrants the question, should I maybe make some kind of series over flows that goes over those kind of things that you should know, because you really just need to know a few basic things to really make good flows. The other thing, though, about flows is just that they do have scaling problems. They are great for smaller orgs, but there is a point in almost every org's growth cycle, if it gets big, that flows just start to become very difficult to work with, right? Unless you're using like a multi-page application through a Lightning Web Component. That's a completely different use case for a flow, and I think those are great. But anyway, I could go on and on about flows. They are good, but you do have to be very careful with them, or you can get into even worse situations than you can get into with code. I've seen a 400 plus node actually no, that's not the biggest one, a 700 plus node flow, and let me tell you, this was before the Lightning flow days where everything loads quite a bit quicker. This was the old visual flow or whatever it was called back then, the ugly flow. It took about 15 minutes to load the flow, and it took us weeks to just add new things to that flow because it took so long. So yeah, they do have good, they have much better performance now than they did. And if Salesforce keeps up with it, flows could be even better than they are today. I mean, they bought Omni Studio, or Velocity, and they have Omni Studio now. And if you haven't seen what you can create with Omni Studio in the form of what are essentially flows that can turn themselves into Lightning components, it's pretty impressive what they've built there. I'm a little concerned personally that will overtake flows at some point, and then we'll be in a situation where flows are no longer the thing, and you're just supposed to build things in Omni Studio. But I think that's a while away, even if it does come to light there at some point. Let's see. I have been on that question for far too long. It makes sense to go over SOC first. Our team had to learn basic concepts before being able to say, okay. Only real locked package here is that. Thanks, man. I'm glad everybody likes the sweater. I really like this sweater. It's a really good one. I'm looking to get into DX at scale tools for packaging DevOps. I'm also testing out, let's see, first legacy package. Explodes almost always my team. Well, I don't know if there's a question in here. I might have hit the best practice is to not mix the two. Though for an S object or process, if you do, eventually you'll lose track of whether flows or Apex is doing pieces of the process. Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing to point out, Chaz. If you do go like the flow route, for record triggered flows or whatever, make sure you stick to it. As soon as you have to go the trigger route, I would consider abandoning the flows and moving it into a trigger, just because it becomes a pretty big hassle to have to upkeep two different record triggered processes, even if it's a flow, even if it's a workflow or a process builder, which I know you're not supposed to use anymore, even though process builder used to be like the golden child back in 2015 or whatever it was. Now it's garbage, so whatever. And I agree. I mean, process builders are garbage, in my opinion. Anyway, getting off topic there. Do I ever plan to do a series on LWC? Yeah, for sure. So as soon as the what I'm now gonna, it's right before I was calling it the Introduction to Apex tutorial series. Now you're gonna see me change that. It's going to be what I'm calling the Apex Master Class, at least for now. As soon as I'm done with the Apex course that I'm currently doing a bunch of videos for, which I hope to be done with in about a month to a month and a half, then I'll start on the LWC portion, which will be the LWC Masterclass, which will go over a lot of stuff. I mean, from JavaScript basics to some of the more advanced things you can do with LWC, like extending pre-built components like the Lightning Data Table or whatever else. So that one, I think, currently anyway, I think it's going to be around a 150 episode series, which is probably going to be about 25 hours long. It might be longer, it might be a little shorter, but we'll see. But I definitely do plan to do a full series on LWC this year, so yeah. Oh, thanks, Jones. Thanks. I appreciate it. Everybody likes a sweater. I'm glad I just put it on because it's cold down here. But anyway, let's see. Is Omni Studio free or a paid add-on? Right now, it's a paid add-on. It's not free, unfortunately, but you can get a developer instance where you can kind of check it out and try things out, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll have plenty of shortcomings too, but it gives you a lot more options with what you can produce with it than, say, a Flow does right now, right? When you create things in Omni Studio, you know, you can export it as a Lightning Web Component and then kind of customize it from there if you want to. You can even export it as a Lightning component that you can use on other platforms outside of Salesforce, which is pretty cool. It's a really cool thing, and I don't know what the future holds. I'm no Salesforce insider by any means, but I do have a little bit of a concern that you know, it'll end up replacing Flows at some point. But maybe they just integrate it into Flows and it's no big deal. I don't know. What's your favorite game you're playing right now? Hey, that's a good question. Wait, did I miss a question? Did I miss something? Well, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I thought Intellij was 500. No, Intellij is Intellij is free. Illuminated Cloud 2 is $90 a year for an individual user. So you as an individual can purchase that license. It's $90 a year. It's great. I will pay $90 a year forever for the amount of time it saves me. I love using workflow rules for triggering things in order of operations. Yeah, I mean, workflow rules are cool. I'm a little sad, and workflow rules are just nice and simple. I know they're not as there's certain flows can do everything workflow rules can, and so can code, but I never I don't know. I never found myself complaining about workflow rules, honestly. Back in the day, anyway. I haven't used them in years, so what do I know? Okay, back to the question. What's your favorite game you're playing right now? That is a good question. I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing again. I like Animal Crossing quite a bit. I don't think you guys can see it, but there's a KK slider pillow over there on this couch, and I'll just sit here and play Animal Crossing all the time. Other than that, it's definitely Halo Infinite. You know, my brothers and my friends and I play that quite a bit. So, you know, I can't say I'm the best at it. Got to Diamond, and I think that's about as high as I'm getting. So, yeah, I love Halo. I've loved it forever. If you go back and you know, if you wanted to waste a lot of time figuring out what I used to do with my free time when I was younger, I used to make Halo montages for people back in the Halo 3 days, which was really fun and cool, and I got to meet some pretty cool people. Like Not that he'd probably remember me at all. At least I don't think so. But, you know, I got to meet and talk to Ninja like a decade ago before anybody cared about him. And we talked about, you know, making montages together because he used to make Halo montages, and we used to talk to each other on the Halo 3 forum back in the day. Yeah, used to make a lot of Halo montages. A handful of them got pretty popular back in the day. It was a good time. I love it a lot. Let's see. You can use Intellij Community Edition. Yep. Oh, yeah. You typed it in there probably before I even answered it. How do you plan out your videos, your pedagogy, etc.? How do I plan them out? Let me get some water here. For the video tutorial series, I take a lot of time to think about how I should structure them. Right? I took an enormous amount of time. It was probably like 2 or 3 straight weeks where I just sat there and thought about, all right, here's all of the other Apex classes that exist. Here's the best one on Udemy. Here's David Luz, or however you pronounce his last name. Here's what Dan Appleman has produced. And I thought, what are all the missing pieces here? What are the things that should be in everything for you to be able to truly become really great at the Apex language? And I sat there and I, looking at all that material, figured out what was important, what wasn't important, what were the missing gaps in those things, and then I created, basically this 131 video series that I believe will cover from start to finish everything, all of the core skills you will need to know to be successful as a developer on the Salesforce platform, right? And the best thing about it is, because this is a video series, I can update it, whenever I want. So if they come out with something new, I can slide in a video that adds something new, which I will do once those things come out, because I want to keep it updated and useful. For the things like the weekly videos that you guys vote on, those are a little less structured than that. So, for instance, I do think about a lot before I put things into the weekly videos for you guys to vote on. Like, I think about what videos have I made, and if I suggest this video for you guys right now, do I have enough supporting material for you guys to be able to figure it all out, right? Because whenever I'm watching videos or I'm reading books, I'm constantly wondering, I'm constantly having to stop and go back and figure out what some term is that I don't know, right? And I'll spend hours going back, figuring out terms, rereading things, blah, 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 whatever. So I want to make sure before I put out a video that I have some enough supplementary videos to be able to give you all the knowledge that you need to know, even if it's a really complex topic, like some of the solid stuff or the Apex Common Library. Man, this cough is getting me now. So I do think a lot about them, but honestly, I kind of just go with what I think you guys will be interested in, and a little bit of what I think I'll be interested in creating for you, if I'm going to be totally honest, for those weekly videos. But I always do try to make sure that I've got enough backstory there, I guess, or supplementary material to make it easier for you guys. Do you think that after properly going through your training series, someone can hold a position as a developer? Would you hire this person? I would hope yes. And I say that because if you're building the things along with me, there will be like projects along the way. Then yes, I think you could get an entry-level position as a developer after after I'm done producing the videos, and if you took them all and you do all the projects that I lay out for you there, I think you could, But if you've never had any development background at all and you're brand new to it, which a lot of people would potentially be, then I wouldn't aim for the stars immediately. I would go for an entry-level position. You're going to have all the knowledge that you need for an entry-level position at that point. Maybe, if I'm lucky, maybe even a little bit more than that. But, would I hire them? Sure, if I had an entry-level or 0 to 1 year experience role, then yeah, I mean, the fact that they completed all those videos and they know as much as they do, they will probably pass the interview that I give anyway. And it showed me a whole bunch about who they are, that they spent the time to figure all that stuff out. And it's going to be like 25 hours worth of video. So if you watch it all, that's a feat for sure. Why Illuminated Cloud versus, say, the Salesforce Sanctified IDE VS Code? Let's see. Real quick before I get into this, I will say the other one. Would I hire this person? Yes, I would. But the reason I say don't get your hopes high is because even though I'm passing all this knowledge on to you, having worked all these different places and done all these different things, I've taken tutorials myself, right? And you don't know how many factors and challenges there are out there until you're out there doing the code, right? So as far as, will it hold up for a mid to senior level developer? No. Even if you take it and things that mid to senior level developers typically know. And that's because there's just too many variables out there that you have to make yourself comfortable with, making difficult decisions, or having to choose between A and B. What's the best scenario? There's never a really clear answer there. I mean, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. I guess I shouldn't say never, but it's tricky, and you don't really, you can't really be a medium, to advanced developer until you've been there and you've experienced it and you've dealt with those crazy situations that you will get into. All right. Why Illuminated Cloud versus, the Salesforce Sanctified IDE VS Code? This one's very easy for me. Autocomplete. And the hotkeys and the fact that I can create styles for my code that I like versus just whatever it is. I forget the prettier, that's what it is, or something like that. There's just a whole lot more customization, and the autocomplete is incredible in comparison to VS Code. It saves me a lot of time, a lot of hassle. So, yeah, for me, it's better. But I'm just one guy. Other people might like VS Code better and might have found plugins that are better that I don't know about. So, let's see. What are my thoughts around Salesforce functions? That's a good question. I've had a lot of thoughts about Salesforce functions. In general, I think trying to find the right way to say this. I think it's probably a good thing, but it might also be a bad thing. Salesforce functions is cool because there's a lot of things that you can't do in Apex, you shouldn't do in Apex, that are better using something like Salesforce functions or Heroku, or using AWS, running something custom that you built there, because it just Apex is slow and it has a lot of limits, and there are some things that it's just, you can build for it, but it's just not suited for. The one thing that I am a little worried about, number one, I think, I can't remember the pricing. I think the pricing's pretty high. But that said, this is probably only for monster corporations anyway. You're not going to get into a lot of situations in Salesforce, I don't think, for smaller organizations that are going to warrant you purchasing Salesforce functions or going off platform anyway. And if you do and you're a smaller company, you can always use AWS because it's cheaper and you can build stuff there too. So the one thing I am a little worried about is that people will try and take it too far. I don't know if they will, especially because of the price point, but I'm just envisioning 5 years from now going to some Oregon, somebody having written half their code base in Java and the other half in C#, and maybe they threw in some Python somewhere, and then you can get in some bad situations when you fragment your code base that much between the languages. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but I'm sure it will somewhere. Halo 2 is the greatest Halo game. super jumping and glitching out of maps with a blast. Yeah, man, it was a good game. I love that game. I'll say I do love Halo 2. I'm a bigger Halo 3 fan, but I loved Halo 2. Especially when I was a kid. That was it right there. What is your favorite programming paradigm and language? I don't know. Favorite programming language? That one's easy to answer. My personal favorite language, actually, I don't know. Maybe it's harder to answer than I think. I like C# a bunch. I've spent a lot of time with C#. I'm a real big fan of that language, and I've spent a lot of time with C# because I've spent a lot of time in Unity, messing around creating some 2D games that hopefully someday I'll actually finish and put out. I wrote a whole storyline for them and spent probably 1,000 hours on it. And it's fun. It's fun. C#'s a good time. But I think every language has its pros and cons in different situations. So I don't know. That's the one I spent the most time with outside of Apex and JavaScript. I've also spent a lot of time with Swift, building custom applications for fun, and I've done a lot of Java applications because that was the first language that I ever did anything for. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know a bunch of languages: Python, C#, Java, Swift, JavaScript. I don't know. As soon as I find a reason to learn them, I'll learn them. What have been some of the rewards for doing this type of work? You're super great, very approachable, and really easy to talk to. Thoughtfulness really shows. Well, thank you. That's nice. I appreciate it. Some of the rewards for doing this type of work, as far as trying to keep this cough away. We'll see if that works out. The rewards for doing this channel specifically, I would say, if you're looking for monetary value, and there's not really much yet. You guys have donated. I don't know that there ever will be, to be completely honest with you. You guys have donated a lot of money. I've given it right back to you in different ways, whether it's through certifications or donating to open source libraries or whatever. But I haven't made a lot of money off of this or anything. As far as rewards, it's just rewarding to me to know that I'm helping and providing something for free that is useful, because I grew up in a place, while I wasn't personally super poor by any means, a lot of the people that I went to school with in the kind of inner city school that I went to, they're very poor. but some of them were very brilliant. And I know that some of them, they couldn't even go to college, and they don't have any good opportunities, and that's just in Missouri, right? Which is not that bad off of a place. There's plenty of places out there that are even worse than the setup, that I was in. So the fact that I can produce this stuff for you for free is great. I'm glad that it's helping. I mean, that's the best part of the whole thing. As far as, rewards for doing Salesforce development work, there's been plenty. I mean, I took a big risk a long time ago, 7.5 years ago, or 6.5 years ago. And I moved from California to Texas in 2 weeks because I had an opportunity at a consultancy firm, and they said that I might be able to work in Salesforce, and I thought, for some reason, I don't really know why, that Salesforce was going to be the future, and so I took it, and I was thankfully selected to work in Salesforce, and here I am. So it's interesting, but I was hired to be a Java developer. I didn't know that I was going to work in Salesforce for sure. Then I got selected. I was pretty happy about it, although I had started doing the Java stuff, and I was a little at that point I was like, maybe I do want to be a Java developer. So it's interesting, but anyway, back in the day. Anyway, as far as rewards for doing the type of work, I mean, this is a profitable career, and I'm very thankful for it. Most people will never get this kind of opportunity, and that's why I kind of built this, to hopefully give more people the opportunity, I guess, because it's just, I got really lucky back then. Very, very, very lucky, and I'm very lucky now that I am where I am. So, wow, there's a lot of questions in here. Can you teach us? Yeah, I'm not going to teach you how to make, in the LWC series, I'm not going to teach you how to make, LWC utils. It's an excellent library by James Hou. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's H-O-U, I think, or H-U-O. I'm not sure. But by Salb or James. It's an excellent library. We'll go over some things that would allow you to be able to build something like he's built for sure. But I'm not going to necessarily build that specifically. Let's see. Will you cover test class development on your training? Absolutely, for sure. There's going to be a whole bunch of test class stuff in both the Apex course and in the Lightning Web Component course. We're going to go over jest tests. We're going to go over unit testing, integration tests, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely, for sure, without a doubt. Tell us about your book. Congratulations. What are you covering there that won't be on your YouTube channel? You're becoming famous. I don't know that I'm becoming famous. Well, that's very kind of you. I'm glad I'm helping. I don't know that I even want to be famous. I really just made this to help people, and to an extent fulfill a promise to some friends that I made a long time ago. To help train people for free on this stuff and give them an opportunity. But what am I covering there that won't be on my YouTube channel? To an extent, a lot of it will be some of what you've seen on the YouTube channel, but in writing. A lot of it won't be, though. It's going to be primarily about software architecture in Salesforce, which is something that I don't see covered in really hardly any books, except for in some capacity in Andrew Fawcett's book, the Enterprise Lightning Architecture book that he wrote. It's a really good book. If you never read it, it's tough to read, very tough to read, but it's a really good book. My goal is to make a book that's simple, that gives you a path to leveraging the values and of software architecture in a Salesforce org, because I think it saves people a lot of money. It can save people a lot of money, especially as you grow bigger and bigger in your org. And there will be some things that I haven't covered either, like application architecture type stuff that I don't know that I have enough time to go into in this AMA, but there's going to be a lot in there. And my big goal with it is to like I said, Andrew Fawcett's book on this stuff is great, but it's hard to read, and I want to make it really, really easy to read, so that you can pick it up and you don't have to be brilliant. You don't have to look up 300,000 terms to figure out what you're talking, or figure out how to use it. But rather, you pick it up, you read it, and you all of a sudden have a good idea of where to start implementing this stuff in your orgs. So, yeah. Wait, Matt is writing a book? Yes, I am. I've got a couple pages done. I've got the outline of what I want to cover done in it, which is really what it took me a while figuring out what I wanted to cover in it. Yeah, I actually have already written a book. If you guys didn't know, it has nothing to do with Salesforce, but I really love this game called Harvest Moon 64 back in the day, and I reverse engineered the game and created a 386-page player's guide for it. So if you ever want to look up Harvest Moon 64 player's guide, I'll be the first response you get, or Google hit you get, and you can check out the book. I'd like to think it's a pretty cool book. It's full color. It's got images and a bunch of other stuff, and yeah, wasted a whole year and a half on that thing, at least. I think close to 2 years. But it's a good time. Good time. Where do you find all the time? Is it by hacking time zones? Where do I find all the time? To be honest, this is just what I do, and it's kind of what I like to do. I'm lucky to be where I am. I like to learn more and more about this stuff, and making these videos forces me to learn more and more about this stuff, and yeah, so there are nights where I will work on these videos and whatnot from 7 p.m. to 3 in the morning. And there are other days where I won't do anything because I need a break, which is really important because I really don't want to burn out on this. So I try to take decent breaks here and there to make sure that I don't, because I don't want to, I don't want to. But yeah, it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of time. And it's not a small amount of hours I commit to it. Probably, I don't know. It's basically like another full-time job, maybe more than I spend even at my full-time job. So I don't know. Thank you for making such awesome videos. No problem. I'm very glad that they help. I really am. I'm very happy that they help anybody. I really didn't think it'd get this far. I didn't think this many people would even care, but I'm very glad that it has helped, for sure. Thanks so much for sharing this awesome advice. I need to start working now. I'm in the Vietnam time zone. No problem, man. And good luck at work. Would you ever download a car? Would I ever download a car? If it cost me nothing and I could build a car on a 3D printer for nothing, which I couldn't, then sure, I'd download a car, because I don't pay money for cars. I hate wasting money on cars. I have a car that is 15 years old now. It's got close to 200,000 miles, and I'm going to ride it till it's dead, and I don't think it'll die for another 200,000 miles. I don't want to. Cars. I know people love cars. Don't get me wrong. You love cars. That's for you, and that's for you. But for me, it's not for me. I like my old junk car, and I'd download a car if it was free, and I could print it for free. Thanks a bunch. Matt is super smart. Hey Cindy. Thanks for being here. If you like tarot card reading, personally, I'm not a tarot card reading guy, but Cindy is great at it. Cindy's Mystical Journey. It's some good stuff over there for sure. I'm trying to fix inherited test classes while listening to this, and I am losing my mind. Yeah, that's tough. Inherited test classes. Oh, like you inherited them in your org. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes that's a tough one. I've been there before. That's difficult. You're awesome, man. I appreciate all the hard work you put in on this. It's helped me a lot. Thanks from Mexico. No problem. Very happy. Like I said quite a few times, very happy I'm just able to help. Have you met any interesting celebrities for doing these videos? Celebrities in terms of Salesforce stuff, I guess maybe. In terms of like celebrities in television, no, I'm not that cool. Obviously, I don't want to be that cool, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I've got to talk to James Simone, which is pretty cool. I've talked to him quite a bit, and he's a really nice guy, really cool guy. I offered whenever he came on to do his video on the channel, I offered to give him a donation for his open source projects, and he wanted to give it to charity. So he's a really cool guy. I've also got to talk to Pablo, the creator of Happy Soup. Also really smart guy. Really cool getting to talk to him. I do get to talk to the other James Saub quite a bit. Very, very, very talented front-end developer. I ask him questions all the time because I'll tell you, I'd like to think I'm very good at front-end development, but man, he is extremely talented. I've also got to meet and talk to Johan Furman a few times. Also very, very cool guy. Very dedicated to learning and trying to build the best stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of people that I've been very lucky to talk to. I've met quite a few CTAs, and yeah, so definitely it has opened a lot of doors for me for sure. Do you have a snappy title for your book? Yes, the snappy title for my book is Coding with the Force. That's it. So there's my snappy title, Coding with the Force. That's the name of the book. My goal is to become a B2B solution architect, so I'm excited to hear you're writing an architecture book. Hope you also cover this on your YouTube video series. This is interesting that you bring this up. I worked in B2B cloud for 2 years, and I hate it. I hate it. I really don't like it. That said, it has been 2 years since I've used it, so maybe it's come a long way and it's a lot easier to work with, but I almost started this channel with B2B tutorials. I actually have the old B2B cloud tutorials when it used to be Cloud Craze. I think I made them when it was still Cloud Craze, and so yeah, I certainly could cover it in this YouTube series. I feel for anybody that's working on B2B cloud. I'm sorry. That is a tough one to work for. It is not anything like anything else you will ever work with on the Salesforce platform. It's tough. when I'm in the zone, what music do I listen to? I listen to a lot of music. There's not one thing. I do listen to a lot of rap music because that's what I grew up on, where I grew up, and the in the inner city schools that I went to. So a lot of that, a lot of R&B. But I also I've been listening to The Midnight a lot. If you never heard of The Midnight, it's really good. What do you call that music? I don't know. It's good. It's not rap or R&B. It's like kind of like video game-ish music, but not. It's like almost better than it. The other thing that I listen to a lot is video game music, like many hours of video game music, and alternative rock a bunch too. So, yeah. I drive a 2008 Honda Pilot. I drive a 2006 Nissan Sentra, so I'm right there with you, man. I take the old cars forever. Your videos are great. Thank you. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year. I hope 2022 is a great year for you. I hope it's a great year for you too. And I did. I'm very lucky. I had a good Christmas and a good New Year. I have a great family, so I'm very, very lucky. Synthwave, that's it. Yeah, that's the one. That's it. That's what I was looking for. Learning. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, what is it? I guess it's been an hour and 20 minutes. If you have any more questions, I'll do like a couple more before I go. I get alpha here, and then I'm gonna go make a video. So, what I mean is learning solution architecture. There will be some solution architecture to an extent in the book, without a doubt, because I think you have to know a little bit about solution architecture to know the right choices to make in software architecture, for sure. But yeah, I mean, there will be some there, and there will be some videos on solution architecture. I'm sure B2B will make its way in here as well at some point. Although I like making videos, I don't know that I'm looking forward to those ones, but I'd be happy to make them. Hey, it's nice to meet you too, Pedro. I appreciate it, man. You've been around for quite a while, and I appreciate all the kind words and whatnot. Sorry to crowd the AMA with silly questions. Hey, no worries, man. I appreciate the silly questions. Those are some of my favorites. What are my thoughts on velocity? I actually talked about this earlier. I do think velocity is pretty cool from the limited amount of time I've done some experimentation with it. That said, the one thing that I am a little worried about with Omni Studio and velocity is that it might eventually take over flows. I don't know. That's a crazy prediction. I have no idea. It probably won't, but it's just, you can build some cool things with it. Currently, they have kind of a little bit different use cases, but I could see them merging them into the same thing, in some capacity anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think velocity is pretty cool from the limited exposure I've had with it. I really hope I can do some tutorials on it on this channel, because I've been messing with it a lot, and it's pretty interesting. Happy New Year to you, my guy. Happy New Year. All right, guys. Well, if that's it, I suppose I'm going to get out of here for now. But, yeah, I mean, look out for quite a few videos. Maybe not this week, but next week for sure. There's going to be one this week on Wednesday over, what is it? Oh, I'm forgetting it. Asynchronous Apex, when to use different kinds, and all that kind of stuff. When to use it, how to use it, all that kind of stuff. So we'll have some examples on queuables and future and everything else, batch jobs, scheduled, and boy, why am I forgetting it? There's something I'm forgetting that I've already made a video for. Anyway, I'm just forgetting the name of it. I know what it is, but anyway, so there'll be a bunch of stuff that we'll talk about, and there'll hopefully be about 6 videos next week at least. So here's hoping. Do I? Let's see. I'll answer a couple of these questions. Do you record multiple times? Yeah, man. Yeah. I probably have 10 times the amount of failed recordings that I have in comparison to successful ones. So it's tough. I screw up a lot. Will you play GoldenEye 007 if it's released on Switch, Xbox? Yeah, for sure. I got a N64 back there. I still play N64 a lot. I got the HDMI mod for it because I am that obsessed with N64. It was like, I love that console. a lot of time spent on it for sure. I seem smooth in my videos. Yeah, that's called. That's the wonder of editing. I used to. If you guys didn't know, you probably don't know. I don't know why you would know. I used to be a visual effects professional. So I did visual effects for some. Wow, what is that called? Sundance Music Festival films. I lived out in San Francisco for a while. Did visual effects out there, and I also did some visual effects back here in Missouri. And did some editing as well. So yeah, thankfully I had those skills from past experiences, and helps make the videos a lot smoother and better, hopefully. Oculus 2, yeah, I gotta say I've not done anything with VR yet, and I probably should, but maybe sometime I should look into it. All right, guys, I'm gonna go make several videos and probably be up till midnight or 1 or something. So I appreciate all you guys being here and asking me so many questions. It was awesome. I really didn't think this many people would show up. Didn't think this many questions would be asked. So I really appreciate you being here, and it's been fun. Maybe we'll start doing this more often. So I appreciate it, guys, and I will see you soon.